Fortunately, we have had the private option protected. And that is, you still have the right, and many of you, I'll bet, are exerting that right. You have the right to opt out, educate your own kids, or send them to private school. In medicine, we need that same option. You need to be able to opt out of the system. You know, endlessly they talked about the public option. The public option, everybody knew that was a term for total socialized medicine. They didn't win that fight, but the corporations won the fight and they benefited. But if we did that, if we allowed the people to get out of the system, this means that you could have medical savings account and deduct it from your taxes. This would be so much better. Isn't it amazing they talked about the public option all the time? How many times did you ever hear them say, oh, why don't we consider protecting the private option? If we're going to get back to a balance, of course, the Constitution would get us there. But we have to decide where we're going to cut. Why don't we cut anything? When have we cut anything over the last 30 or 40 years? It is because we as a people have accepted the notion that government should be doing all these things. Government really does reflect the prevailing attitude of the people. And if you come and the politician comes and he wants to run for Congress and said, well, I'm going to vote against the spending, and I'm going to vote against all the spending that's coming to this district, traditionally, that guy lost. Something is stirring now, because in this election this year, that doesn't hurt your chances of being reelected or elected. But we only have two problems in Washington with spending. We have conservatives and the liberals. They both like to spend. Conservatives spend money on different things. They like embassies, and they like occupation. They like the empire. They like to be in 135 countries and 700 bases. Did you hear the news? Did you hear the news just this weekend? Kyrgyzstan, there was a revolution over there. Why was it important? Because we have an air base there. Why do we have to have air bases in the Soviet satellites? Besides, we're running out of money. No matter how badly you would like to have them, all empires end not because they're defeated militarily. All empires end for financial reasons, and that is what the markets are telling us today. Besides, if you want a strong national defense, it should be designed for defense, not to support preventative wars, and not to support wars that are undeclared. Don't you think it's rather conservative to say, oh, it's good to follow the Constitution, except for war. Let the presidents go to war anytime they want. I would say that if you want to go to war, only Congress can declare the war, know who the enemy is, and go fight and win it and get out of there. And also politically, it's much easier, and it makes a lot more sense to cut the militarism and the bases overseas than it is to cut child welfare here at home. There's just so much room for that. And I don't hesitate for a minute, because I know we would be stronger for it. When we went into Korea, I was in high school. That's 60 years ago, believe it or not. But we're still there. It costs us a lot of money. Why do we have to have troops there? We don't have troops in Vietnam. We came back from Vietnam, and people were embarrassed by that. But Vietnam, in our defeat, are better friends now and more capitalistic than all of Korea. You know, North Korea is not our friends. 20 years of the French and the Americans trying to tell the Vietnamese how to be westernized totally failed at a fantastic, horrible cost to us. And now we have won more in peace than we ever won in war because they're trading partners. We travel over there. Their president comes here. We can do better with peace than with war. But once again, if there is a need to go to war, it should be done properly, and then the rules would be quite different. But you know, personal liberty, if you're an advocate of, as we all are in the Republican Party, we're advocates for limited government, small government. But small government is one thing. It's easy to say, yes, we want less taxes and less regulations, and that's good, fine, and dandy. But do we want to make sure that every individual has a right to life and liberty? I would say yes. Everybody has a right to life and liberty. And when we talk about protection of all life, I mean the protection of all life, not just life designated by liberals. I believe premature, preborn life is just as valuable and should be protected. But it also means that if you're going to protect liberty, you're going to protect personal choices. We have no trouble protecting personal choices when it comes to our churches and intellectual interests. People are allowed to read and study and do what they want. But as soon as it comes to something that we want to put in our bodies, all of a sudden the government has to tell us what to do. And I would say that we don't need the government to tell us whether or not you're allowed to drink raw milk or not. I would say that should be your own decision. And of course, all smoking and drinking, which are very dangerous, very harmful to your health, there's good reasons, but those decisions are made by the individuals in a free society and not by the nanny state. It's gotten to the point now where they designate your diet, how much fat you're allowed to have, and whether or not you're allowed to have salt, whatever. Yes, those are problems. But why have we lost our confidence in ourselves that we can deal with this? Dangerous things for our children should be handled by the parents, just as education is. But we have a long way to go, and we're in a very, very difficult situation. And to me, the reason that we face the crisis we're in is because we are bankrupt, and nobody can come up with a solution. And everybody's arguing. It's also... The fact that so many people, considering themselves conservatives and considering themselves champions of limited government, aren't acting within the party system because they're frustrated and they want to see the credibility regained. And it will involve cutting spending, but you can't just pick and choose. You need to cut spending every place and get back to a balanced budget. Now, more specifically, why are we in the financial crisis? Is this something that just popped up and there's nobody to blame? Well, we have this commission up in Washington studying it. They have this whole commission, a bunch of guys on there, and then there's a bunch of witnesses come in. Not one single person that is a member of the commission and not one single witness endorses free market Austrian economics, and that's where you'll find the economic answers. The free market economists understand the business cycle, predicted the breakdown of Bretton Woods in 1971, predicted all the events since 1971, the destruction of the dollar. We've lost 97% of our dollar's value to gold since 1971, and we're rapidly moving into an inflationary stage. We're not over the financial bubble and the financial problem we have. It just started. What I believe will happen, I hope I'm absolutely wrong on this, but as time goes on, we are going to work our way into a situation that is going to combine the vicious downturn of the 1930s with the vicious upturn of prices and inflation of 1970s. That will be very devastating, and that will indeed be a threat to all our liberties and institutions. Medicare and Medicaid are bankrupt. You can't save Medicare and Medicaid by creating another $1 trillion medical program. In the 1930s, they had a Pecora Commission, a similar commission. They came up with the conclusion, the problem was they followed the gold